Welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I am working on the Iron Crafter Challenge. This is a hop that I host over on my Facebook community group. If you do not have Instagram or YouTube and you would like to play along with Iron Crafter, I highly encourage you to share your creation over on my group. There's an album just for Iron Crafter March. It's labeled, and you can go ahead and stick your card or art journal or layout, whatever it is that you do with paper crafting. You're welcome to put it over there in that album. We love to see your work, and I would love to be able to meet you and see your work. So the Iron Crafter Challenge was created by Anna from Peacecraft Love, and when she went back to teaching at her son's private school, I took over all of the hops that she was hosting, and this is one of them. And so now what our premise is, and we kind of built this one together. She was the one that ran with it, but we bounced ideas back and forth. And the premise is kind of like the Iron Chef Challenge, the TV show. You get a mystery ingredient and you have to create something with it. And so when I asked at the end of the year what kind of things that my members of my group would like to see on Iron Crafter, I was given a list of things, and then somebody also asked if we could do a recipe challenge. And so I decided to do the recipe challenge every third month. So March, we're going to be doing a recipe challenge instead of just a single ingredient. So the ingredient for Iron Crafter Challenge in March is a Cutfile. It is embossing. Got two different colors here, and stamps. And I have a set of stamps here. I am also using my February counterfeit kit challenge blog kit. I barely touched the surface of that kit last month, partially because I had other things going on, like a week away on a cruise, and then I got sick after the cruise, and so my February kit is still pretty full. And I had pulled a lot of the product for certain photos, and the photo that I'm going to be scrapbooking today, this is one of those. This is a photo taken of my son's platoon in the Marine Corps. They were deployed, and their photographer took this photo. It is a really cool photo. It's in sepia, which I don't know if it translates well on camera. Let me turn off this extra light for a minute. There, no more ring light. So I think this is an awesome and cool photo. I am not sure which of these figures is my son. I want to say he said it was this one, but I'm not positive. I'll have to ask him again. But I think this photo is super cool. My son was an infantry Marine, and now he is out. Well, I'm going to pause. We're going to get started, and I'll be right back. I hope you're ready to play, because I have a lot of grunge and inking and all kinds of fun in store for you today. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this white cut file. I cut it with my Cameo. I don't remember for sure where this cut file came from. It could be a Pear Tree cut file, or it could be a Paige Evans cut file. I'm not positive. But I cut it in white, and absolutely, yes, I could have cut it in navy blue, but I really wanted to ink up this cut file because I love the mottled look that inking gives it. It's a really cool effect, and you know what? You can use your inks to do just about anything you want to make things match with what you're playing with. And I pulled several sheets of paper out of my February counterfeit kit. One of them is kind of what I would call a slate blue. It's actually not quite as dark as Uncharted Mariner Distress Oxide is. And I will tell you that this ink pad gets a lot of use in my stash because I adore this color. If you've been here for very long, you know that my favorite color happens to be blue. I love just about all shades of blue, but I really tend to lean towards the navy blues, the darker blues, and so that's probably why I really love this particular ink pad. I also adore the Distress Oxide spray. I don't think I've played with the actual Distress spray, but maybe I should pull that out and play with it too. So this here, like I said, I love to do this because it doesn't leave you with a straight color. You get a mottled effect because you are ink blending with your blending tool, and you do have to be kind of careful with a cut file, especially one with thin lines like this, because you run the risk of tearing it. So I was trying to be very careful in a lot of those places and just getting all of those pieces inked and ready to go. And you saw that I also inked up the little middles to my letters. I'm going to use a piece of this corrugated paper. I have an entire roll. The piece that you just saw me tear from is not the entire roll. It's just a piece that I cut off the roll, and I had it down on my table for a previous layout, and I have never put it back. So what you just saw me do was rub some Distress Embossing ink, and that comes in that little dabber form, and I've rubbed it in places on my corrugated paper because I'm going to heat emboss with the embossing powder the corrugated paper. And I think I say this at the end of the video as well, but when you heat emboss corrugated paper, you need to be careful because it starts smoking. I'm not sure if it'll show up on camera, but it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'm like, oh no, I do not want to be having the fire department at my house at midnight. That's crazy. So that was the Distress Embossing Powder. I think tea dye is the color that I used. I'm going to add some of this black here, and I believe that's from Inkadoo. I just added another big swipe of the embossing ink out of that dabber or dauber, and I'm going to try to not make a mess. Anybody who knows me knows I don't like fine things like glitter, and embossing powder, I kind of make an exception to it because I like the finished look. Glitter just about gives me hives. I do not like glitter. The only time you will probably see me use glitter is either because somebody has made me or because it's already on a product. Like I will buy glitter paper. That doesn't bother me as bad as loose glitter. I do not like glitter. I like the look, don't like the product everywhere. So I'm using my embossing ink again with this stencil. This stencil is from Dusty Attic. I am fairly certain I bought it from Some Assemblage Required, and is probably one of my most used grungy stencils next to the Vicky Bouton one that has X and O's. That one I use a lot as well. So I lifted it up and then realized I didn't get every spot that I intended to get. And I am going to heat emboss this, and it will be partially covered up in the end layout, but there's enough of it that you can see what I did. And I was trying to use up all of what I had used previously on the corrugated paper, and it wasn't quite enough, so I just pulled some more from the little container. This is probably one of my favorite embossing powders to use because it melts so pretty. As you will see, it'll just start melting here. Now I have had the same heat tool forever and a day. It works very well. Probably got it from a Cherry on Top or maybe even scrapbook.com eons ago, and I have used it quite a bit. I don't always use it on camera, but because we're using embossing powder for Iron Crafter this month, I wanted to make sure that I did most of the technique on camera for you. And I am going for a very grungy look here, so I don't mind all of the stray bits and pieces that you can see on these. And I'm just going to start building my layout now. The corrugated paper and that piece of rust colored paper that I just heat embossed are going to go kind of along the bottom. But first I want to ink up the edges of this brick paper. This brick paper is really cool as is, but I loved the look after I inked up all of the edges of the paper, and it just kind of goes along with the grunginess of this layout. I really love to play with grunge, and I feel like I don't do it often enough. And so this was just something that I hadn't done in a long time. And I'm going to tell you, I had an absolute blast creating this layout. And I really enjoy all of these techniques. So I'm going to tear off a piece of this slate blue paper. If you've watched me for very long, you also know that I'm not a huge fan of a big, thick white core after it's been torn. And so that is why I went back and I kind of tore off a little bit more. I'm inking up the edges of this with what's left on my tool. And I'm going to go ahead and glue it. Now first I glue it in the wrong place and then you can't see any of it. So I'll pull it off here in a minute. I'm like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. This isn't going to work. And I'm like, wait, huh? Oh, I covered it up. I didn't put it in the right place. So I'm going to move it up so that you can actually see it. And I will be putting some stamping there. That is the second thing that I'm going to be using from the Iron Crafter recipe challenge. Actually, I think it's already the third, since I showed you the cut file, I showed you the embossing powder, and now I'm going to show you some stamping. And again, this is a grungy layout. I'm not trying to be perfect with the stamping. I'm just stamping. And I use that fine Memento ink quite often when I'm doing word stamps. Now, I was going to stamp around the edge of this globe, and I do end up doing that, but I was a little annoyed that the words were upside down on the top. I wish the stamp went the other direction. It is what it is, and I went ahead and I stamped it again on the bottom so that the words are not upside down. And I would imagine that Allie Edwards meant for you to stamp around. There's a circle image on her stamp set. She probably meant for you to stamp around that. But I'm not using the whole stamp set today. I'm just playing with that one little piece. And I'm taking some of the scraps from backing my cut file, which I'm going to put this out here right now. I forget to show you on camera that I put it on there. So at the end of the video, it'll be on the layout. And I cannot believe that I forgot to do that. I'm glad I caught it before I was fully finished. I caught it in the gluing process and I went, what a dork, you're an airhead. But it is what it is. So I'm just kind of playing around with these different embellishments. Like I said, these embellishments came from my February counterfeit kit. The ephemera pieces that you see there are actually from Tracy Reed Designs The Manuscript. It is a black and cream and like khaki colored collection, and it's a really cool collection, and it works really great with a masculine grungy layout like this. And I cut out all of the pieces using my printer and my Cameo. I printed them with my Hewlett Packard and then cut them with my Silhouette or Cameo. I have this arrow here that says something like the story of this photo. I have some stars that I'm putting on here. I think I end up with 3 stars. And as I'm working on this layout, I'm like, ooh, MK would be so proud of me because I'm using some of the scraps from the bits and pieces of this layout. She saves everything, guys. If you've ever watched her scrapbook, you know that she saves all the things. And last year in 2024, when we were on our scrappy cruise, she made us save all the things. And so now I can hear her in my head, save that, don't throw it away. So she should be proud. I used several little pieces on here, like this one here is another piece from my cut file that I am just going to kind of stick down here and peek up out of that corrugated paper. I'll get it glued in there just the way that I want it when I turn the camera off. I love that I was able to mat this photo with burlap. That's pretty fun. All right, got this layout completely finished. Did you guys catch the mistake that I almost made? I forgot my cut file. So after I turned the camera off to glue, I was like, wow, I don't have a title. Why don't I have a title? Oh, yes. Ha. Leave it to me. I'm an airhead, or can be at times. So I did get that glued on here. Quite happy with the way that this cut file turned out. And I really love this grungy layout that is so full of different textures and inky, distressed goodness. I want to show you my fingers. So they're quite covered in glue and ink and scraps of paper are stuck to my fingers. So that's what happens when you get to play with all of the fun mixed media. And I really enjoyed making this layout. Off camera, I just glued my title down and moved this from here to up here. That way you can still see some of my oh my goodness, heat embossing that I did. The Distress embossing powder, I just don't know that that's my favorite. It doesn't melt as pretty as the other stuff does. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to melt. I don't know. It did stay and it looks really cool. I will say that if you heat emboss on corrugated paper, be very careful because it smokes. Ask me how I know. Yeah, I was afraid I was going to set off the fire alarm up here last night. That would have been fun. But also I did move my date from here to the side of the photo, and that helps the title helps me not cover up too much more of my heat embossing on this piece of paper. I want to thank you for coming to my channel today. I really appreciate those of you who are here and who take the time to like and comment. If you have any comments or questions about this layout or anything that I did on this layout, please drop them down below. If you are new here and you've never watched me before, welcome, and I am so glad to have you here. If I have done enough for you to subscribe, please click that button below. My channel will always be free to subscribe to, so I hope that that will help you make a decision. Also, there is a playlist in the description box below. I would absolutely love it if you would just click on that playlist and watch all of the videos that are part of Iron Crafter for March 2025. Also in that description box below, I have a list of Instagram participants. Those ladies are amazing and they're creative, and I would really love it if you would check each one of their accounts and leave them some love, look at their layout, see what they have done with this challenge. And I hope that you guys have a great Friday and a great rest of your weekend. Bye.